Hello, everyone. Welcome into Above My Pay Grade. My name is Eric. The Pentagon just failed its fifth audit in a row. What? You don't say. The government agency that is spending essentially a blank check without any oversight and continuing to do so. You know, our military has an $800 billion budget this year, and the Pentagon, last 5 years, doesn't really know where the money's going. So let's take a look at this article here from Responsible Statecraft that kind of lays it out pretty well. And I want you to keep in mind, I've told people this. How long do you think the Afghanistan war, the war in Iraq would have lasted if on your W-2 statement for your your bill, your tax bill, or what you're liable for every year, there was a little line item that said war fund. How long do you think that the wars would have lasted? Not very long. And my point is the fact that we can print money, take on more debt, it doesn't come out of the taxpayer's side. It does eventually through inflation, but it doesn't directly. Boiling frog syndrome. People don't really. It's not front of mind. The fact that we're at war, spending billions and trillions of dollars, not front of mind for your average taxpayer. But you know, the Pentagon, massively huge organization, and I like to differentiate between people who serve in the military, have some experience in the military, great people in my experience that I've served with, freedom loving Americans. But the Pentagon, the behemoth that is the Pentagon, and any other government organization is much different, right? They're dealing with billions of dollars, and so at the lower level, money is accounted for much more strictly, shall we say. But at the higher level, Pentagon, it looks like they've failed their fifth audit in a row. Keeping in mind that the IRS now wants you to account for anything over $600 that came into your Venmo account. So little Timmy starts a lemonade stand, people Venmo you, have a garage sale. You need to keep account of that and report that to the IRS. That's very important. Pentagon, trillions of dollars in assets, look the other way. Does that make a lot of sense to you? It only makes sense in a fiat world, meaning government can print demand and tax it through inflation. That's the only way it makes sense because your average person, I had people last year when Afghanistan was all this botch come to me and, you know, people that I knew didn't really know we were still over there. And the only way that happens with the voting populace is if they're not paying for it. At least they don't think they're paying for it, right? So reading from the articles here, it said, I would not say we flunked, said the DoD Comptroller Mike McCord, although his office did note that the Pentagon only managed to account for, get this, 39% of its 3.5 trillion in assets. Granted, the DoD, Department of Defense, is a massively huge organization with people spread all over the world. But what? 39%? Huh, interesting. I would say that's not good. The news came as no surprise to Pentagon watchers. After all, the U.S. military has the distinction of being the only U.S. government agency to have never passed a comprehensive audit. And I caution people with the military, and I appreciate, people say thank you for your service. People really appreciate those in the military, but the military can be a bureaucracy just like anything else. Right? It can be a money-making organization. It can be a money-making organization just like anything else. Look at some of the generals who are leaving the United States military and going to work for foreign governments that we're not so friendly with because they're paying them money, right? So to assume that everyone in the military is a good person who actually takes their oath to heart and wants to support and defend the Constitution, that is not always true. It's just like any other organization. You have people who are bad, people who are good. But when those people are in leadership, more importantly, when the culture of the military is encouraging people who are in leadership to be yes men, right? You get this kind of diffusion of responsibility, and things like, not passing 5 audits in a row, right? The botched withdrawal in Afghanistan, things like that. So everyone has a different opinion on it, and my opinion is not that of the DoD or the U.S. Air Force, but I think, this is just my opinion, that the military should, since it's taxpayer money, should be looked at through a microscope, just like every other organization. The only way you get away with it, say this again, is because they print the money and they tax you through inflation. Okay, it's not because it's on your pay stub. It's not like Social Security tax, and that's why these foreign wars persist longer than they should. All right, so further reading here. Of the 27 areas investigated, only 7 earned a clean bill of financial health, said McCord, described it's basically same picture as last year. So no improvement. No improvements. That's good. Um, so what did they do last year? Please, please do better. Please, super please. And exactly the same. Okay, so the Pentagon famous recent boondoggle is the F-35 program, which has gone over its original budget of 165 billion to date. But examples of overruns abound, said Senator Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma, and Jack Reed, Democrat from Rhode Island, wrote in 2020, the lead vessel of every one of the Navy's last 8 combatant ships came in at least 10% over budget, leading to more than 8 billion in additional costs. 8 billion. I underestimated that. The Navy plans to expand its ship production in an effort to maintain an edge over China, with a particular focus on new attack submarines and destroyer ships. The Pentagon has proposed 3 versions of this plan at an average cost of 27 billion per year between 2023 and 2052. A 10% jump from the current annual shipbuilding cost, because hey, inflation doesn't just affect uh, your pocketbook, it affects the military too, right? They have to pay more for goods and services, for labor, and obviously for shipbuilding. The CBO, Congressional Budget Office, says this is a big underestimate. This 27 billion per year for new ships. And by the way, CBO is notorious for underestimating things in general, and the CBO is the one that's saying this is an underestimate. The independent agency's math says that the annual cost of the shipbuilding initiative will be 31 billion, meaning the Navy is underestimating costs by 120 billion of this program's life. So you say to yourself, they get into these contracts, right? And they quote Congress, "Hey, it's going to cost $27 billion a year." Whoopsie daisy! It's 31 billion. You want us to just have like a 3/4 built ship, or it's the extra money? And w- the military in war, I think, military is one of the unique things that I think the government is responsible for, protecting its citizens. But just like anything else, it can be abused, and the you spent on the military can be abused. And if it is a institution that wants to remain in power and grow its power, which most institutions do, they create demand. And how do you create demand for the military? You make uh, you deploy abroad a lot. And if the war's not happening, who knows, right? My point in all this, um, it's just this like money scheme. Like it's not really necessary to balance a budget. It's not really necessary because who pays at the end? The poor middle class. We're going to have inflation. Who cares? That's 10 years down the line. We don't need to worry about it. And now we do. Because guess what? Not only is ships and missiles and all the stuff that we spend money on going up, but labor's going. No one's joining. No one's joining. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I've made videos on that in the past. But no one's joining, and so they have to pay them more to keep up with inflation. And as inflation persists, you see how this problem keeps persisting. The military needs more money, Social Security needs more money, Medicare, Medicaid, and we're already in debt and running about a $2 trillion deficit this year. Hmm. Hmm. Could that be potentially a risk to national security or national debt? No. No, no, no. It's the sun monster, that's China. Not saying that China's not a threat, but what happens to a country whose fiscal position gets to the point where there's social unrest in the streets because people can't afford to live? What happens to national security of that? It's not good, tell you that much. And as Mike Mullen said back in 2010, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he said, "Our biggest threat to national security is our national debt." And that was when it was like 13 trillion. So all we did was step on the gas pedal. All right, let's read the rest of this article here. All right, but like I said, the CBO is saying, "Oh no, you're wrong. It's actually going to be 120 billion more than you said." Whoops. And then, like I said, CBO, if you look at any of their data, you look at it and you're like, you think we're going to have that rate of inflation with the amount of money printing? I don't think so. So they underestimate already. As Mark Thompson of the Project of Government Oversight recently noted, these overruns shouldn't come as a shock to anyone who paid attention to DoD acquisitions in the recent years. But it does suggest a continuing and stunning inability by the Navy to get its ducks and dollars in a row. Like I said, if you start a project and then it's three-quarters of the way done and you still need more money, what are you going to do with three-quarters built ship or ship? Nothing. So you go hat in hand to Congress and asking for more money, and that trend continues. Okay. The DoD hopes to finally pass an audit by 2027. Fingers crossed. Better have your IRS statement ready this year. Okay. It's just your taxpayer dollars, Fugazi, shell game, but you better get your taxes right. Don't want to get audited, okay? A mere 14 years after every other agency in the U.S. government blew past that milestone. That may coincide with another national historic moment, according to Andrew Lutz of the National Taxpayer Union. So, my thought about this is it's not surprising seeing any massively huge organization, especially when they use taxpayer dollars. It's just like anything else. If it's not yours, people don't take care of it. When you drive a rental car, how do you drive it compared to your own car? So, in the military, and it's not profit and loss, which is what military is, but you look at how equipment and it's not yours, and how money flows and how big the organization is. It's not surprising to me that they don't pass an audit. It's surprising to me that they aren't held to account, right? You can pass an audit once, and it's the same this year. Makes me think. And I will say this one more time: the military becomes a gargantuan when fiat exists, when the printer can fund the military. A lot of people, including myself, would agree with you that the military can cut costs, and this constant expansionism or expanding of the military and deploying everywhere and all that kind of stuff. It's not always helpful for the United States. How does it protect United States citizens? How does it support and defend the Constitution of the United States? I don't know. Afghanistan, Iraq, I don't know. I really don't. So I definitely think we can cut back, but I think that at the base level, the citizens would have said this already if we didn't have a money printer. Because if it was coming out of your taxes, you had a little line item on your tax note every year that said, "Hey, you got to give us $500 for the war effort." People would be about it if they felt unsafe. But 20 years in Afghanistan, people didn't even know you're printing. Rather frustrating to me. If you think about it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Sorry for the long rant, but see you guys in the next one. Peace.